main issue. I'm taking a leak. Like it or not, who gives a shit? We lose the fact of where the energy comes from, right? And that's something that's why I talk about such ideas and concepts that make people feel very uncomfortable. I can tell. I don't even read the comments, and I would like to do an interactive. I would like to know that the people that are viewing are truly involved with what I'm talking about, that they understand this discourse and the wide-ranging. And I'm going to have to just walk without recording myself, recording my actual distance. That's the thing, is that I'm on Apple. I feel a little floaty, so forgive me. I've gone my first few miles, but recording my my distance. So, like, who are you? What are you? What identifies a you as a you? Free will. The fact that, and this is what I meditated upon. This is what I saw years ago. And this is what I meditated into the field, whether you want to act like it's hubris. It's like, you're just one person. You can't do this. No, I am a time-space event. I am a culmination of where the energy meets. And it's like, well, I am too. And it's like, okay, what are you doing? What are you doing that's activating this? You follow? So you can't put this on. This is what destroyed my career, you might say, is that, okay, you're going to be this person in the morning, and you're going to represent yourself as this person at night, and this person through the course of your day, but you are not the same person. You are not displaying the same person. You're a total asshole to the barista at Starbucks. You were a psycho on the highway. Oh, I just got set off. And it's like, do you understand that by saying that, when you see the deep moral implications that I am talking about, that I am discussing, is that you are opening yourself up. Let's call them muses so we feel more comfortable. Let's get away from the overused term demons. Let's not see that year after year, place after place, through the procession of time and space and events, that you are not just wanting to sell yourself out for $1 billion. And then when $1 billion is more like 1 billion pesos, you're going to want something else, that you're just jumping from one track to the other, and that something else is in charge. And it's so rudimentary and mundane, that, like, the whole postulation with Schopenhauer, it's like, what differentiates people, right? That it's space and time, space. Well, let's picture what you're saying as the unit of time space. Let's picture the jack, something that can support a sphere. So then we can take non-Euclidean spherical mathematics. We can take Leibniz research on, such anomalies, convex, concave. Then you start to see how light and optics play and interplay. Like I used, and this isn't to be taken literal, but maybe it is. When I look at a rainbow, I don't see these this arch. I don't see. What I see is, I see a sphere. I see that I am noticing that there is a spherical anomaly taking place there. And you might say, yeah, it's just, oil and water and light, and, but you have to get down to the fundamental truths that we're not really looking at light. We're looking at electricity. We're looking at electrical impulse, and how that electrical impulse that gives off radiates, wave patterns that sine waves, however you want to look at it, and then the frequency canceling that out and creating these sort of parameters, right? Um, and that when you look at this biblical promise, right, the rainbow, what is it really saying then? It's segmenting. It's saying, for you, I have compartmentalized. You're not. You take Adam and Eve. It's like you're gonna fuck up. If given total free will, you're going to fuck up. But then, how does that justify all the negativity that if you really pursue this and you place yourself, in the psycho's realm where you have this psycho drive and you're not just going to get caught after you go into this, mass murderer or serial killer mind state, but you're going to stay steadfast behind certain principles and say, no, I'm taking this all the way up. I'm going to become a figure like Stalin, where I'm putting these motherfuckers' heads on the doorsteps of their family as a warning. Some El Chapo shit, right? The CIA was just involved in that, not 12 years ago, where they were, they outright made a statement that they were consolidating these crime organizations down in Mexico down into one, so that they, and it's like, what? And then you see all these they're not even black projects, but they feed back into black projects. You have these people that are working for them as operatives that are so, and that gets into Sean Ryan. Like Sean Ryan, I don't think he even understands half the shit that's going on there, but he represents something, right? As a time space, as a time place event where people who are military inclined can come to a forum where they can see not only the abuse and the brainwashing that's occurring, right, but also where all these black projects and where all the money is going to, and what this mission was really all about, what it was really serving, right? It's like, I'm just going to take orders, and it's like, who are you serving, and to what aim and what cause? What's the final outcome? Like, you're not supposed to think in an inductive and critical sort of way. That's why I like to watch Jesse Michaels, right? And he hasn't done a video for a little while, but he's so perspicacious and diligent in his communication that, and then he has a really good interview on Kurt Jamungel's station, Theories of Everything, where he's looking pragmatically at so many, and how these things come together. Like, I'm in INTJ on the Kiersey temperament sorter, where it's called like a mastermind, but there's no hubris in that. I'm broke, like whatever the fuck that means. But the INTJ tries to look at things as a whole, as a system, and to say, okay, all these different components are occurring. Why are they occurring? It's not even, okay, this feeds into this, and this feeds into this, and this mechanism, and it's like, why? And then you're supposed to back up and go, you can't ask why. All you are is this little anthrobot, and it's like, yeah, but that anthrobot has personality. It has persona. So now you have this postulation that's existentially being placed forth, where all these quote unquote highly educated, special people who basically you have to have the opportunity 9 times out of 10, probably higher than that, to go to college, to escape from the bounds of mediocrity, as if you're being swept back in to stay in the same, like, here I am back in the same fucking town that I got away from several times, and it's like there's almost this energy that just tries to sweep you back into it, right? Because it's easier for the algorithm. You have a history there. it's easier to compartmentalize you and place you, but it's like it doesn't really know, at least it doesn't appear to know, understand. When I say it, yeah, go ahead, throw a clown face on there, Stephen King, it, yeah, whatever the hell you want to do with it. But it doesn't seem to know the expression on a forum such as this, where you're discussing, where a person is discussing these higher mind concepts that break out of the norms or the standards. In other words, it likes to compartmentalize everything into a sort of academia. Like it tries to, say that the only thing that's valid, the only thing that's like a validator node, the only thing that can be held true is when this energetic system goes through its checks and balances, tries to see if this chain of command, this DNA, is all in order so that it stays the same, right? But it can't see through thought that this morphological condition, when it can't see when it's taking place, it doesn't seem like as a person is changing, as their ideologies are morphing into a more open-minded view, and that they're no longer a a mere transistor. They're no longer just a receiver, right, of said informations, and then to compartmentalize that information and to do it in such a way where it's like you have to follow the order of the state. The state says you have to uh, take this information, delineate it, spew it forth, into the most simplified form, make your statement, and whoever the fuck understands the moral implication of like what's going on here, what's on Tucker Carlson's, what he's talking about. We're talking about Iran and Iraq and the fact that we're pretty much through these statements in the media, we're at war, right? And that we've been sifting this money into one wing that has been fueling the other, and that to turn a blind eye and say, oh, these people, Biden, didn't understand what they were doing in the first place. And it's like, of course they did. North Korea, and South Korea right now, basically at war. And to say, oh, they're busy. They don't understand what's going on in the Middle East. Sure they do. Sure they do. Right? It's a globalist it's like as soon as you think that you can trust somebody, right? And that's what happens over and over again. As soon as you see this congressman who's like, I'm going to go do good. And it's like the second you get that money in your pocket, that's why Santos was, at least the motherfucker was a big fat liar, and he was out in your face because that's what they all are. And that's what he saw, right? Doesn't mean he's any good, and it doesn't even mean that he should be working at Burger King taking your order. He's the kind of guy who would wipe boogers and do even worse to your food. He's a degenerate, don't get me wrong. But to say, look, we're going to say that all of you are degenerates. We're going to look at your track record. I don't know if you've heard that recently, in the last couple of weeks especially, but where they came out with these, like all you can do is stand there with your jaw gaping wide to hear how many drunk driving incidents, how many, we're talking about outright criminals, right? People who don't have the inspiration or the ability or the talent to do anything else. They don't even have the drive. Their entire life is to convince other people that they should be in some sort of political power so that they can feel good about themselves at night, suck their cheeks in and act like they are important. This gets into the authorship, the authoritarian aspect of what somebody needs to represent, right? What they need to look like they represent, from a very superficial level to what they're really fucking doing. Like what this is the time we're living in too, where it's come to the critical factor. Like you want to get in these people's faces and say, what the fuck are you really doing? What are you being paid $200,000 to $400,000 a year for? Right? Why are we following this governmental jurisdiction? And I don't even want to go there because it's boring to talk about. It's boring news. But the fact of the matter is that when it hits home and when you are out of job, when you are out of service, when you are out of your mind, when you no longer have a self to regard, and you're looking at your kids, you're looking at your spouse, you're looking at your own life and going, I lost myself, right? And that's what the rest of the world is looking at America with, like, you need to see more dead bodies on the street. You need to see more starving people. You need to, be taken out of your comfort zone. You need to lose your ability to drive a mile or two down the street to Walmart to buy a bunch of fucking worthless products that are prematurely killing you off. You need, like, it is the subvergence of consciousness itself that's taking place, right? So consciousness itself is reaching these sort of dead wallets, like blockchain. It's like you're sending these codes off into areas where it's going to come back. Like the value can be lost in a person instantaneously. Your occupation, what you think about yourself, and you have to start asking yourself a critical question of, where does the energy come from? What is the source of where the energy comes from? It's not even who you are, what you are, your DNA, your genetics, how, what your talents are, what your shortcomings are. It has more to do with this electrical impulse, the, the electric universe. You ever look up the Thunderbolt projects, right? That's been around for many years. And it's a little too highbrow for me to even follow most of the discourse that they go about on that channel. It's like you have to have, and that's the thing, break it down into simple terms so that people can understand it, so that they can start to see how this takes place in a localized event in their own lives. And for me, I started to break this down, and I started to notice this reoccurring theme when you look at all these symbols, when you look at the colors, when you look at the principles, when you look at what you're really doing, actualizing. Like if you're listening to this now or in the future, you care about this one fact, and that is the actualization of what the fuck am I doing right now? Why am I arguing with this person? Or why am I having breakfast here? Right? Why am I watching this? You have to have straight talk with yourself. Why am I sitting down watching Netflix again? Well, I'm fucking exhausted, right? I worked all day. I did this, I did that. Like, be very real. And even speed reading is something that's becoming very popular. It's like, oh, I read this many books in this short amount of time. And it's like, but did you walk away with the meaning? Because once you look at this time space signature, right, you have to be able to understand what it was like when this guy was sitting under the apple tree and he had this experience, right, and the sun was shining. And it's like, and you think that just by taking this in rapidly and just breaking it down into the actual wordage and the basic meaning, that you're not missing something, that you're not taking part and taking place as an experiencer, right? And so this is where the umwelt, or the umwelt, how it's spelled, comes into play. It's like, really, the way that I interpret it is like you're processing through one side, and then you're projecting out a reality to the other side. And it seems like the intention is to to render people as inoperative, right? To where they can take in as much information as they want, but they cannot express the interpretation through their own personality, their own persona, their own experience, their own existence what the meaning is, like the golden mean, right? Again, back to the Fibonacci sequence, right? What do you mean? What are you expressing? What are you doing? And are you going to listen to that intuitive inclination of, I don't feel like I'm in the right place at the right time, or I am the event, and wherever I go, I am in the right place at the right time because I am speaking truth. And even more so, the delineation is, oh, I'm speaking my truth, right? The whole woke side of it. There isn't your truth. There is your ability to feel comfortable ascertaining a portion of the truth, right? This is where sociopaths come back into the play, right? And you're incorrect, right? You're acting out your response to your truth, that you are being humiliated, or you are, right? You're not going to learn anything from this situation. You're not going to be transformed, and you're not going to be brought to total humility. You still have to maintain a certain aspect of yourself. So it's, I want my cake and eat it too. I want to exist, but I don't mind existing in a quasi-existent state where I really don't have anything that identifies me as an individual, right? That I don't mind being a robot, as long as you regard me as a beautiful robot. As long as you look at me and talk to me and whisper sweet nothings in my ear that I am an individual, even though I know that I am not. Just hearing that, right? And we're looking at other people as if they are the eye of the beholder, right? That collectively, what they think matters, even though what they think, right? And what they even think matter is, going back to like the mouse utopia, social engineering, to say, all people are, is a product of that neurolinguistic programming, that they are what they're told to be. And even more so, you take away the resources and they can't be anything else, right? You put some shit in the water, in the tap water, and make it so they can't do anything but drink tap water. You have the solution of what damn well is going to result from that alchemical change, right? And so you do this in pocketed regions and zones, and you find out that people aren't able to pass certain informational energies on to one another. That energy itself can be stunted, or shunted altogether. That by messing with the flow through, you can change the algorithm, and therefore time, space as an event, and you yourself. And the reset, to me, is to be able to like really overload the system all at once with all of this information. Like, to think that the system itself could be such a rudimentary mechanism, right? But again, you see how these rate propagation signals are working tandem to the sphere. Like when you create, even from an occult perspective, you create a circle, and there's nothing in that circle. And then you start to think about the aspects that I'm talking about, where you're looking at persona, you're looking at direction. Maybe you're just looking at a historical event, and you're putting a map there, right? That's going to go on the side of the next space shuttle, right? Where you're going to put a certain number of stars there. You're going to put an animal, an eagle, that represents a certain thing, right? The eagle is going to be looking either right to the left, right? And you're going to see something off in the background, right? So those things all represent something to the observer, right? But there's something much deeper when you get into the occult about the absolute meaning behind not only showing those specific items in display, but showing how and what the interaction of that is, and even more so, the other symbols that are placed through um, proximal power procedural positions, like basically you look back at the tree of life, you look at the flower of life, and you see how Metatron's cube almost looks like it's moving right on the page, right? To where you see the fact that if you're going to imply these spherical units, right, and a certain adjacency and juncture to one another, and then you're going to be able to see not only the Star of David, you're going to see, the pyramid, you're going to see a rectangle, right? You're going to see all these different geometrical constants and constructs emerge from this, and you're able to play with this in real time with your mind. Like when they say, are you a right brain thinker or are you a left brain thinker? Are you capable of looking at that ice skater and turning that ice skater one way or the other? I am, but it's not the same year after year, and it's not completely easy, and I'll have to focus in, but instantaneously, yeah, you can train yourself to do that, right? And that brings out an entire other aspect of universal sciences that can go back to non-Euclidean spherical mathematics. You can look at the zeros and ones and zeros, and you can start to see the language that emerges through the occult symbolism, and that color itself, when you see the photon collision rate or speed as to display a certain shift, right? Red shift, blue shift, and you start to see how these energetics work. You see these entire pockets of space that uniformly go back into a sort of spherical mechanism of sorts, where you have everything spinning, everything is energetic, and everything is operational, and you start to wonder if the entire fucking thing is like broken, right? If we're dealing with a broken system, and we're dealing, it's like you look around you see broken people. You look around you and you try to put out an effort where you're like, I'm going to create something that's so dynamic and so positive and so principle oriented, and you are not going to have anything but obstacles thrown out in front of you, even when there's funding there, even when it's like, oh, this is for the homeless, effort, this is for to get people off drugs. When you see these efforts over and over again, and it's as long as the money is going into a black hole, no solutions are rendered, no solutions are offered. Sure, we'll keep doing it. People want to make out those checks. They want to make out those blank checks and say, I did a good thing. And it's like, did you do a good thing? Did you see where that money's going? So even when you look at blockchain, you know, you look at certain blockchains that have been developed so that you can see where, like in real time, you can see where the fish was caught, how the fish was processed. You can go on and see in real time how it's being delivered to you, right? And there's an actual contract to where it shows where the sale was at a particular time, the stages that it went through, right? And then you get into fungible and non-fungible like tokens, where you see that the value itself, like NFTs and so forth, where the valuation itself doesn't have to stay concurrent to one particular method or mode of economic influence. That it can be, like you can create a contract for the Mona Lisa. Somebody just threw fucking soup on it, right? Not too long ago. It's like you can go, oh, that's going to become part of the contract. The date, the person that it happened, the person that did it. Now the valuation is this. Oh, it went through a restorative process at this time, at this date. So you start to see how all of that information, something that Billy Carlson was talking about, or Carson, I'm sorry. And I'm not going to overly talk about that because I think I don't even want to get into it, but where he talks about this guy who made well over 1 billion copies on a microscopic scale of his book and was able to put it inside. Like, we're talking about infinitesimally small, the microcosm of how